When I said no to giving my sister $35,000 for an Toyota, Mom laughed. I burned your college acceptance letter anyway, Dad said. She got emotional. I didn't argue that night. I moved everything quietly. Also, you might want to grab a drink and get comfortable because this one's going to be a ride. I'm 24. A woman living in Denver. Working as a financial analyst making around 78 grand a year. For the past 3 years, I've basically been my family's personal bank. This is the story of how I finally snapped and tore apart their cushy little setup after they wrecked my future. I graduated from the University of Colorado with a finance degree, summa cum laude, while juggling 30-hour workweeks just to stay afloat. I didn't get a single dime from my family, not 1 cent. I covered every expense myself through student loans, long hours at my accounting professor's firm, and 4 years of living on a diet that was 90% ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches. My sister, now named Rachel, is 21 and perfectly embodies every stereotype about spoiled, self-absorbed Gen Z. Imagine the most entitled, materialistic person you've ever met, then multiply that by 10. She works part-time at a makeup counter, maybe pulling in $900 a month when she actually bothers to show up. Yet she struts around like she's some kind of influencer CEO with an empire to run. Here's what a week in Rachel's world looks like. Wake up around noon, spend 2 hours doing hair and makeup for a 4-hour shift, flood social media with hustle posts about building her empire, shop online during her lunch break with money she doesn't have, then come home whining about how broke she is while planning her next shopping spree. This girl has never earned a single thing through real effort. When she turned 16, she wanted a car. Dad bought her a nearly new Honda. 6 months later, she crashed it while texting behind the wheel, and Dad just replaced it with another. When she wanted to follow her dreams in community college, our parents paid for everything while she switched majors 4 times before finally dropping out to focus on her personal brand. My parents, now renamed Mark and Linda, are textbook enablers. They've been feeding this behavior for 21 years, showering her with everything she's ever asked for. Dad's a regional sales manager for a pharmaceutical company and makes decent money. Mom works part-time doing bookkeeping for a dental office. They should be financially stable, but they live paycheck to paycheck because they can't seem to say no to Princess Rachel. The family setup is simple. I'm the responsible one who never asks for help, always fixes her own problems, and naturally that makes me the designated family ATM. Rachel's the baby who deserves everything just for existing. For 3 years straight, every time some financial disaster hits, and trust me, it happens constantly, my phone lights up. Car payment bounce because Rachel blew her check on beauty products? Call Brooke. Credit cards maxed again? Call Brooke. Rachel's next business venture needs startup money, which usually lasts about 2 months before she quits. Call Brooke. I kept convincing myself it was just temporary help. Maybe until Dad's next big commission came through, or until Mom took on another client, or until Rachel finally got serious about working full-time. But the calls never stopped. The numbers got bigger, and my family got more entitled. What made it even more twisted was how the more I helped, the less they seemed to see me. Every time Rachel made another mistake, she got sympathy and attention, while I became the invisible problem solver. I was stuck in this endless loop where being responsible somehow made me responsible for everyone else's messes. Last year alone, I did the math. I covered roughly $9,200 worth of family emergencies. That doesn't even include the streaming accounts, insurance premiums, phone bills, and random expenses I'd been covering because Brooke's so good with money. I honestly thought I was being a good daughter and sister. Turns out, I was just enabling 3 adults to live outside their means while treating me like their on-demand banker. Then 2 months ago, Rachel found her latest obsession, a brand new Audi A4. Not just any Audi. She wanted the Premium Plus model with leather seats, advanced navigation, premium sound, the whole package. Price tag? 35 grand. Keep in mind, this is a girl making less than $1,000 a month, who's never owned a car worth more than 8, courtesy of Dad. But in her fantasy world, she needed the Audi for her social media image. One Saturday morning, she barged into my apartment without knocking, all dressed up in a cheap outfit but holding a designer bag worth more than my rent. Classic Rachel. "Brooke, we really need to talk," she said in her serious voice, scrolling through her phone like she was about to pitch a startup to investors. "I've been doing some research. I need reliable transportation for work and personal growth. The Audi has great safety ratings, amazing resale value, and it would really elevate my professional image. Her professional image. The same girl who called in sick 3 times last month because she stayed up too late watching reality TV was suddenly talking about professionalism. Rachel, you work part-time at a makeup counter. You don't need an Audi, I said. She rolled her eyes. That's so judgmental, Brooke. Just because I work in retail doesn't mean I don't deserve nice things. Plus, I'm about to launch my own business. That was news to me. What kind of business? I asked. I'm going to be a lifestyle consultant and social media influencer, she said proudly. I've got a vision board and a full business plan already. I just need the right image to attract big partnerships and high-end clients. I just stared at her, trying to wrap my head around the logic of needing a $35,000 luxury car to become an influencer with barely 180 followers on Instagram. The payments would only be about $520 a month, she went on, all excited like she was pitching a business idea. And I already talked to Mom and Dad. They completely agree that families should help each other achieve their goals. That's when it hit me. This wasn't some random idea Rachel cooked up. This was a full-blown coordinated attack on my wallet planned with military precision. Rachel, I'm not buying you an Audi, I said flatly. Instantly, her face morphed from fake sweetness to pure venom. Wow. Just wow, she snapped. Your own sister asks for help with something that could change her future. And you're being totally selfish about it. It's not selfish to refuse to buy you a luxury car you can't afford, I replied. I can afford it, she shot back. With reasonable help from family members who supposedly care about me. Then she stormed out, slamming my door so hard the frame rattled. I should have realized that was just the opening shot in their campaign. Over the next week, I got hit from every angle. Mom called me crying, saying Rachel was heartbroken and crushed by my selfishness. Dad bombarded me with long texts about family obligations and supporting your sister's dreams. Rachel herself started flooding my social media with car photos, payment plans, and guilt trips about how I was blocking her from success. The manipulation was so over the top it would have been funny if it didn't make my blood boil. But here's what they didn't know. 8 months earlier, I'd applied to Harvard Business School for an MBA full scholarship, plus a living stipend. They'd actually pay me $52,000 a year to get a degree that would set me up for a $180,000 plus starting salary at any top consulting or finance firm. I'd been grinding toward this for 2.5 years, building my resume, networking with alumni, writing for finance journals, volunteering at nonprofits. The application alone took 4 months of evenings and weekends. I hadn't told my family because I wanted it to be a surprise, something that might finally make them proud of me for what I'd achieved, not what I'd paid for. When that acceptance letter came on a Wednesday, I must have read it 75 times just to make it feel real. Harvard Business School. Full ride. Stipend. Research opportunities. Everything I dreamed of. I decided I'd announce it at Sunday dinner. Maybe for once we'd celebrate something that wasn't a crisis. But when I walked into their house that Sunday, all 3 of them were sitting at the dining table like they were holding a board meeting. Rachel had printed car photos, financing sheets, insurance quotes, even maintenance cost breakdowns. This wasn't a talk, it was an ambush. Brooke, sit down. We need to have a serious family discussion, Dad said in his firm business tone. Rachel immediately dove into her pitch. I've done all the research, she said confidently. The Audi is the smartest investment in my future. The safety features alone make it worth the cost. And the reliability will actually save money long-term. She had clearly practiced this. 15 straight minutes of stats, resale values, brand image, career development. It was like listening to a bad Shark Tank audition. Then came the proposal. They'd worked out that if I covered the $9,000 down payment and helped with monthly payments for the first 18 months, Rachel could gradually assume full responsibility. It's not like you're using that money for anything important, Mom chimed in helpfully. You live in that tiny apartment, never go anywhere exciting, and you don't even have a boyfriend to spend money on. Wow. Thanks, Mom. Love the character analysis. That's when I calmly reached into my bag and pulled out my Harvard acceptance letter. Actually, I said, I am planning to use my money for something important. I got accepted into Harvard Business School, full scholarship and stipend, I handed the letter to Dad and watched his expression. For about 5 seconds he looked proud. Then I saw it change. Pride turned into annoyance. Graduate school? He said like I just told him I was joining a cult. More years of being a student instead of contributing to this family? It's a full scholarship, Dad, I said carefully. They're paying me to attend. This could set me up for a $200,000 career. Rachel rolled her eyes dramatically. So you're just gonna abandon your family for 2 years while we're struggling? I've been helping with your struggles for 3 years straight, I said, trying not to lose my temper. What struggles? She shot back. We're fine. I almost laughed. Rachel, I've paid your phone bills, streaming subscriptions, car repairs, overdraft fees, even parts of the mortgage and utilities. Nobody forced you to do that, she snapped. You all literally asked me to, I replied. Dad cleared his throat, that end of discussion sound he always made. Brooke, we appreciate everything you've done, but this Audi situation is time-sensitive. The dealership says the rate expires this week. And Harvard has deadlines too, right? Yes, I said. I need to confirm by Friday. That's when Mom delivered the knockout blow. Brooke, honey, think about what really matters. Rachel's trying to build a real career, a real life. This graduate school thing, it's selfish. You're thinking about yourself instead of the family's needs. Selfish, that was the word I'd been waiting for. Choose, Rachel said, folding her arms like it was an ultimatum. Help me get this car, or go play student for 2 more years and abandon your family. I looked at the Harvard acceptance letter still in Dad's hands. 2 years at the most prestigious business school in the world. A clear route to total financial independence. A chance to finally build something meaningful for myself. I choose Harvard, I said steady. That's when Rachel snatched the letter from Dad and marched straight to the fireplace. Oops, she said with a smile as cold as ice, and dropped my acceptance into the flames. I watched 2.5 years of planning and late nights curl and burn. The Harvard letterhead, the scholarship terms, the program details, all gone in 30 seconds. She's just emotional right now, Mom said, as casual as if Rachel had spilled coffee instead of destroying the thing that meant everything to me. We can work through this. No, I said quietly, standing up. No, we absolutely cannot. I walked out and didn't go back. That night I sat in my apartment staring at my laptop, feeling anger tighten into something like pressure in a steam engine. They'd torched my future to bully me into buying Rachel a luxury car. Then had the nerve to call me selfish for choosing to better my life instead of bankrolling their princess forever. Fine. If they wanted to see selfish, I'd show them what selfish looked like. I started doing the one thing I should have done years ago. I totaled every dollar I'd given them. I logged into my bank and combed through 3 full years of transactions, transfers to their accounts, payments I'd made on their behalf, subscriptions I covered, temporary loans that were never repaid. The figures were shocking. Streaming services, Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, Prime, roughly $67 a month. Rachel's Spotify and YouTube premiums, $18. Mom's gym membership that she used maybe twice, $85 a month. Routine emergency transfers and mortgage help during Dad's slow commission months, averaging $650 monthly. Utility top-ups when they ran short, about $220 a month. Big one-offs that never got paid back. Rachel's spring break trip to Miami, $2,900. Mom's emergency transmission repair, $2,800. Over 3 years the total was massive. I'd been quietly underwriting their lifestyle, while they treated me like an inconvenient ATM. I was funding Rachel's little luxury world while she called me selfish for refusing to buy her an Audi. Then I noticed something that made my blood run cold. Several large transfers I absolutely didn't remember authorizing. Clean round numbers, always sent at odd hours when I'd been at work or sleeping. The next morning I called my bank and demanded full transaction logs with timestamps and authorization details. What I found made my stomach drop. There had been unauthorized access to my account. Login entries from IP addresses that weren't mine. At times I was definitely not at my computer. Someone had my banking password and had been siphoning money out of my account for 8 months. The most recent theft was $6,000 transferred just 4 days earlier. Right when their pressure campaign about the Audi ramped up. I filed a fraud report with the bank, then went through every account I'd set up or managed for them, documenting everything methodically. Their mortgage records showed they'd already been 4 months behind before my help began. Their credit cards were maxed, with minimum payments being made by automatic transfers from my accounts, transfers I'd originally set up but which had been increased without my consent. The phone bill I'd been covering included international calling, unlimited data upgrades for everyone, device insurance, and monthly phone upgrades that cost more than many people's car payments. This wasn't just entitlement, it was active theft and manipulation. Burning my Harvard letter wasn't a meltdown. It was a calculated move to destroy my independence and keep me trapped as their permanent funding source. 3 years of steady manipulation and straight-up stealing added up to roughly $51,000. My future had literally been turned to ash to preserve me as their personal bank. Time for total nuclear war. I told work I needed 3 days off to plan, because if they wanted to play games with my money and my life, I'd show them how someone who actually understands finance plays. Step 1: Lockdown access. I changed every password on every account I'd ever touched for them. Online banking, streaming services, phone providers, insurance portals, utilities, and removed my payment methods from all their accounts, canceling every automatic transfer I'd set up over the years. But that was just the opening move. Over the 3 years I'd acted as techno-financial support, I'd helped them create a bunch of online accounts and automated systems, and because they were hopeless with tech, I still had administrative access to much of it. Phase 1 was total service termination. I immediately canceled all streaming subscriptions with no notice, removed my cards from their Amazon Prime accounts, and cut the premium cable package Dad loved. I downgraded their family phone plan to the cheapest possible tier. Barely enough data for calls and texts. I stopped every mortgage transfer and removed overdraft protection linked to my accounts. Canceled their cloud storage, terminated Mom's and used gym membership, and made sure every comfort they'd taken for granted disappeared overnight. Phase 2. Credit score annihilation. This was where my finance background paid off. Their credit cards had automatic minimum payments pulling from my accounts, so once those payments stopped, late fees, penalty rates, and negative credit reports would hit fast. I also knew Dad had been using my stellar credit score as a reference for his business loans and credit line extensions. I filed fraud alerts with all 3 major credit bureaus, explicitly noting that my information was never to be used on anyone else's applications again. Phase 3: The Audi trap. Remember Rachel's big moment of glory? Her approved Audi financing? That approval had been based on a co-signed application using my credit information, without my consent. I called the dealership's finance department, explained that my identity had been used fraudulently, and sent them the fraud case documentation from my bank. The financing agreement was canceled immediately. No questions asked. The Audi dream died that same day. Phase 4. Employment consequences. This one required patience. Rachel's manager at the makeup counter had been fed up with her constant sick days, but she never faced consequences because she always had my money to fall back on. Without that cushion, she'd either have to start showing up on time or lose her job. I didn't need to lift a finger. Reality would handle that part for me. Phase 5: Social media reality check. Her entire self-worth revolved around pretending she was rich online. Designer outfits, brunches, vacations, all bankrolled by me. I didn't touch her accounts. Without funding, her fantasy life would collapse naturally. By Thursday night, Phase 1 was complete. I leaned back and waited for the fallout. Friday morning, 6:45 a.m. The first explosion hit. "Brooke, what the hell is wrong with Netflix?" Rachel's voice screeched through the phone. "No idea," I said. "Did you pay the subscription?" "Why would I pay it? It's always been automatic." "Not anymore." She hung up immediately. 15 minutes later, Mom called. "Brooke, sweetheart, there's some issue with our cable, and the phone company says there's a payment problem. Sounds like something you'll need to handle directly," I said. "Not anymore." Dad rang around lunchtime. "Daughter, we need to talk. There are serious problems with our accounts, and the bank called about a late mortgage payment." "That's unfortunate," I replied. "Brooke, what's happening here?" "I'm reallocating my financial priorities," I said calmly. "You know, being selfish. Like you told me I was." The silence that followed was the most satisfying sound I'd ever heard. By Friday night, they were in full-blown chaos. The Audi deal had imploded. Rachel's phone was restricted to emergency calls only. Their credit cards were racking up late penalties, and they were staring down their first unassisted mortgage payment in over 2 years. That's when they decided to confront me face to face. Saturday morning, all three showed up at my apartment, arguing in whispers about who should do the talking. I watched through the peephole, amused, before letting them knock for 5 straight minutes. Finally, I opened the door. "Brooke, we need to talk," Dad said, forcing his way inside without invitation. Rachel looked wrecked. Puffy eyes, no makeup, plain clothes instead of her usual designer look. "This has gone too far," Mom said. "You're punishing everyone over one small incident." One small incident. They were calling the burning of my Harvard acceptance letter a small incident. "What exactly do you want from me?" I asked. "We want our daughter back," Dad said, his voice heavy. "This isn't who you are. You're not cruel or vindictive." "You're right," I said. "The old me would have already sent you money to fix this. The old me believed her family cared about her success." Rachel finally spoke, voice trembling. "Brooke, I'm sorry about the letter. I was emotional, it was stupid. But this is tearing our family apart." "No, Rachel," I said evenly. You tore the family apart. I'm just done funding the wreckage." "Please," she said, tears streaking down her cheeks. "I lost the Audi. My bills are overdue. My manager's threatening to fire me. I need help." "Then get a second job," I said flatly. "I can't," she whined. "I need time for my business development and personal brand." And there it was, proof that even standing in the ruins of her own mess, she still lived in her fantasy world. "Your personal brand," I repeated slowly, staring at her. "You mean the one with 180 Instagram followers?" Her face flushed deep red, humiliation burning through her mascara-streaked cheeks. "That's not fair," she said shakily. "I'm building something meaningful." "You're building nothing, Rachel," I said, my tone flat and final. "You're a 21-year-old part-time retail worker with a fantasy life and zero work ethic." Mom gasped sharply. "Brooke, how can you talk to your sister like that?" "Because it's the truth," I said. "And maybe if someone had told her the truth years ago instead of feeding her delusions, we wouldn't be standing here right now." Dad stepped forward, trying to pull the conversation back under his control. "Daughter, we can fix this," he said. "But you need to stop these account cancellations and payment disruptions immediately. People are depending on you." "They've been depending on me for 3 years," I shot back. "And you planned for me to keep bailing you out forever." I pulled out the papers I prepared and handed them over. $51,200. That's how much I've given this family over 3 years. Not loans. Gifts. Because not one of you ever paid me back a single cent. The room went completely silent. "And you know what else I discovered?" I continued. "Someone's been stealing directly from my account. Unauthorized transfers. Want to guess who?" Dad's face drained of color. "Brooke, we can explain. You've been stealing from me for 8 months, I cut in, while lecturing me about family responsibility." "It wasn't stealing," Mom said quickly, her voice breaking. "We were just sharing resources as a family." "Help requires consent," I replied coldly. "Taking money without permission is called theft." Rachel broke down crying, real tears this time, not the fake ones she used for sympathy. "Brooke, I'm going to lose everything," she sobbed. "My car payments due, rent's due, every card's maxed out. I don't know what to do." "Figure it out," I said. "Like every other adult has to." They stayed another hour and a half cycling between anger, guilt, and begging. They promised to pay me back. "With what?" I asked. "They promised they'd change." "Sure," I said. They pleaded for some kind of lifeline, but I refused everything. When they finally gave up and turned to leave, Rachel stopped at the door. "You used to love me," she said softly. "I used to think you were my sister. And I used to think you weren't using me as your personal bank," I replied. Turns out we were both wrong. After they left, I sat in the quiet, and for the first time in years I felt peace. No phone calls begging for help. No guilt trips. No manipulation. My bank account was mine again, and so was my future. The silence was perfect. For weeks passed. No contact. Until the messages started. Rachel, Tuesday, 3:17 a.m. *Brooke, please. I'm desperate. I got fired. I can't pay rent. I have nowhere to go. Please help. I'll do anything. Asterisk mom Wednesday 1:45 p.m. Asterisk your sister's sleeping on a friend's couch. She's lost everything. I know you're angry but she's still family. Please just help her with rent until she gets another job. Asterisk dad Thursday 7:23 p.m. Asterisk daughter the bank called about foreclosure proceedings. We're 4 months behind on the mortgage. Your mother's having panic attacks. Please we need your help. Asterisk I ignored every single one. The messages kept coming. More desperate, more pitiful. Rachel sent pictures of herself crying. Mom left voicemails sobbing about how the stress was ruining her health. Dad wrote long emails about forgiveness and family loyalty. Then one evening they showed up again at my apartment door. All three of them looking broken and exhausted. Brooke, please, Dad said, voice trembling. Rachel didn't even wait for an invitation. She walked in, eyes red, clothes rumpled. I know I messed up, she cried. I was selfish and stupid and I used you. But I'm homeless now. I'll do anything, 2 full-time jobs, whatever it takes. I'll pay you back every penny. Please just help me one last time. Mom and Dad looked completely drained, years older than they had a month ago. We made terrible mistakes, Dad admitted. But we're still your family. Families forgive each other, Mom added. Families also don't steal from each other, I said evenly, or burn their daughter's acceptance letter to Harvard Business School. I was stupid, Rachel said through sobs. Jealous. Selfish. I've learned what it means to suffer, Brooke. Please believe me. I looked at her. This broken, desperate version of the sister who once sneered at me for working too hard. For weeks ago, you called me selfish for refusing to buy you an Audi, I said. Now you're broke, homeless, and out of options. You want to know what I've learned? I learned that I spent 3 years enabling a spoiled brat who saw me as a walking credit card. I learned my parents cared more about keeping their princess comfortable than supporting their daughter's success. And I learned that cutting toxic people from your life, even family, is the healthiest thing you can do. Please, she whispered. I have nowhere else to go. That's not my problem anymore, I said. Dad's voice cracked. Brooke, we don't have that kind of money. Then find it, I said. Sell the house. Take out loans. Figure it out like adults. That's impossible, Mom protested weakly. So is getting into Harvard, I said. But you didn't care about impossible when it was my problem. Rachel collapsed into a chair, face buried in her hands. I destroyed everything, she said in a trembling voice. My life, your life, our family. All for a stupid car. Yeah, I said quietly. You did. She looked up at me, tears streaming down her cheeks. Do you hate me now? I thought for a long moment. No, I said finally. I don't hate you, but I don't love you either. You're nothing to me now. That broke her completely. She started sobbing like her whole world had ended because it had. They left with nothing. No money. No promises. No rescue. And over the following months, I saw their lives unravel through social media and distant whispers. Rachel bounced between fast food jobs, barely scraping by. Mom and Dad lost their home to foreclosure and moved into a cramped rental. Their easy, comfortable lifestyle was gone for good. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilt. I felt free.